Roomba was like the first time I think I started to hear like the whole idea of the Internet of Things, where it was like everything's going to be connected and that's all going to be this nice, harmonious situation. And now we're in this world where like none of this shit works. Like none of this shit talks to each other. None of this stuff like integrates in any type of way. Like
I
it's
mean,
that
hello,
weird
the Jetsons.
thing.
Where's
And
Rosie?
yeah, like it's not right. Like Roomba was supposed to be rosy.
Welcome to UX Murder Mystery. I'm Eve Eden. I have about more than 15 years of UX experience in the industry, and we're glad to have you. Our episode today is focused on probably something you might have in your home, maybe not. It's a little fancy. The iRobot vacuums, or something similar to it.
Yeah, Eve, which vacuum, like do you have a robot vacuum?
Yeah, the one I have is the Shark IQ robot. So it's the one that has like a self-emptying, and it has that mapping feature where you can
Yeah.
tell it to like only clean this part of the house.
I have what's called a Eufy, which is it looks like a little like it's a knockoff, I guess, of the Roomba. Um, I don't think it's connected to an app. I think it has like a little dumb remote. We hit play, it gets stuck on stuff, and then we like kick it out of the way or move it out of the way, and it terrifies our dog. Our dog goes running away from it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting that uh, that both you and I both have these things, but we don't have a Roomba.
We don't have a Roomba. That's right. So Roomba is now in bankruptcy. So,
Yeah,
and you and I did not purchase a Roomba. Do you know why? Like, were you really looking into getting a robot vacuum and did research? Like, how did you kind of determine that you wanted this vacuum?
I believe that Stacy and I were in our apartments, and I think that I was like, should we get a I think we were like I think at one point we were like, should we get a robot vacuum for the apartment? And I think I mentioned the Roomba to her and she was like, absolutely not. That's way too expensive. But
Good,
then
good woman.
right? Because she was like a grand for a robot vacuum
Yeah, yeah,
is too way too prohibitive. And when she's right, I agreed with her on that. And so she found Eufy, and I think Eufy is only like $200. And if
right,
it's $200 versus which for our apartment was perfect for
right.
you in an apartment, great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did my research, like, really nerdy, wanted to know what the differences are and really cared about that. And usually my parents are really like sweet where they're like, oh, let's, get you something for the house. I had just gotten an English Shepherd dog, and if anyone
Oh,
has an English Shepherd dog, they are beautiful. But their hair is just falls out. It just, there's hair everywhere, and it's pretty
yeah.
long. She wasn't a short hair. And it was just like a great buy. And so I waited. My parents helped bought it for me, and it was a Black Friday deal. So
Yeah.
we got a good deal on it. And so that kind of goes right into what happened with iRobot. Like, what was that UX failure that really kind of made um, iRobot filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy a month ago, December 2025. And so that was court advised. And it's something that I think, that's why we were talking about on the show, a little shocking, because I feel like that's what you think about. You actually, even, what's that called when you start naming the thing, like instead of it being a tissue, people call it clean, like hand me a Kleenex.
It's
Or
the when it becomes a verb, it's like a big thing. Or band-aids, right? Band-aids
Right.
are like one of those
Yeah,
band-aids,
like
and like
Xerox copy.
in
Yeah.
the South, growing up in the South, oftentimes Coke is like a default thing for sometimes if you want a soft drink or a pop or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's it. Because sometimes people generically used to say Coke as a thing as well. So
Right, yeah. I actually said "pop" the other day to someone, they're like, "What?" And it's like,
uh,
"I want a pop." And
yeah,
I was like, I
my
mean
my
soda."
my my family thinks it's very strange because we grew up saying soda, and now I'm in the Midwest and everybody says pop, so it's always pop,
Yeah.
and it is very bizarre to them. They're not.
I mean,
Uh,
I have to say, like, pop sounds cuter. Like, you
it
just
sure
like
does. So real quick, while we're talking about the brand and the Roomba, and I do feel like iRobot was a really weird fucking name though, because it was like they were trying to capitalize on iPod, I guess, because after the iPod came out,
Sure.
then you saw several brands of stuff start to put I in front of things.
And
I always feel
what was the film about too? Wasn't there a film called iRobot?
That is from Isaac Asimov, from an Isaac Asimov novel that predates all of those things. That
Okay.
predates um, uh, iRobot and all of that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
think they were related, um, but uh, but it is funny because I do think that branding, when people fall into the traps of like following the leader when it comes to branding. I feel like that is always a mistake. I remember years ago there was a leader at a company who started wanting to call everything Pro at the end of it because
Yes.
Apple had done Mac Pro and then Surface Pro, and I always feel like when people start put adding pros, adding stuff that sounds more like other companies, that is a big brand fail. You
Of
know?
course. I mean, it basically puts you, you're being put, it's like extremely trendy for the current time period. So you're literally
Yeah,
aging yourself in 5 years. Like when you call yourself something that current, when you kind of fast forward in time and you still have the business, obviously, you're going to show your age. So that's just like
100%.
classic design no-no.
Yeah. Um, so the Roomba, I was looking at a couple of interesting things about the Roomba and what kind of led to the bankruptcy. And part of what led to the bankruptcy was the conversation that we started with, which was there were that were other brands of vacuum cleaners that were more competitive in the market that cost less. And then it sounds as though they also tried to develop a lawnmower, and they took 10 years to develop a lawnmower, and then it never shipped.
Okay, I've seen a lawnmower doing the iRobot thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
was that the only one or are there others out there?
Well, so I don't think iRobot never shipped
Yeah.
the vacuum or
Okay.
the lawnmower, but there
Huh.
are other companies that basically started doing the lawnmower, which seems like a horrible idea, but but I guess it works. I guess people get the automatic lawnmowers and they work okay.
Yeah, what I read too is, the number one factor was the failing sales and the competition, right?
Yeah.
So it saw a decline in sales because there were more affordable and competitive robots that were coming from China. And
Yeah.
so obviously, case number one, you and I, we did not buy that vacuum. And I would say in both our cases, it was price point. Why would you buy like a product that, I mean, if the product was significantly better at cleaning, well, yeah, then of course, like, why am I buying this? Something that's not going to do it. But like the suction power and, what it could do when it would pick up items. I mean, it was obviously doing a good job.
Well, it was also supposed to um I guess they were going to add some kind of like a mopping feature. A mopping feature never happened, or I don't know if it ever never happened, but it looks like that may have been an issue. Um, but the big thing I've seen is the customer service was awful. Which, if we think about UX, man, how many times have we been talking about on this podcast about how like you can have the best UX, you can have the best app, you can have the best product in the world, but man, if your customer service sucks, all of that money is like down the drain.
Yeah.
And it sounds like their customer service universally was awful.
Yeah, I've called Shark before. So one of my
Yeah.
robots died early
Mhm.
on. They shipped me another one for free. I
Oh,
think all
really?
Yeah, and all I had to do was pay like 20 bucks for shipping or something, and that was it. They were like,
That
"Yeah, we'll send you another one."
that's wild because like that's something where it makes you a loyal customer, right? It makes you go, "I'll stick with this brand, sure."
Yeah. I mean, I was never like not a fan of shark items, but I think it is a very competitive company at the price
Yeah.
point and the high quality product that you get. I think maybe people have talked about their blenders too or something that was like also significant. Or it was yeah, something around that. Maybe it was like blow dryers or I know my kids right now are using some of the shark brushes that also dry
Mhm.
and they've been loving it. And that's like I bought them it was like a Dyson knockoff, and so 2 of the girls asked for that for Christmas, so I bought 2 Shark. So yeah, obviously it did keep us like in that kind of customer base of being loyal. You know, another thing was like from a data privacy worry is it mentioned that US lawmakers also thought maybe from a security review that the
Mhm.
iRobot devices were collecting detailed spatial data from inside homes, which it was. Mine used to map, and I would tell it to only, like not clean around, I don't know, the Christmas tree or something because it would always get caught. So I would like create a fence around it. And so it did do that. But what they're saying is it could, in theory, raise privacy concerns under foreign ownership.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was just something else that was at least a little outside of our realm. However, hopefully, like coming up in another podcast, we're going to be talking about pricing surveillance. That's a
Yeah.
hot topic. Also, seeing how much they can get from products from you. So you may have buying habits that are repetitive, and so you may get a different price point. Anyway, sidebar, that's another episode coming up. But getting back to this, I think that's like one thing that I see here was it was another concern about privacy.
Uh, I this also it also reminds me that the Roomba was like the first time I think I started to hear like the whole idea of the Internet of Things. Remember when Internet of Things was a big conversation where it was like everything's going to be connected and that's all going to be this nice harmonious situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like 10 plus years ago, that was like the conversation. And now we're in this world where like none of this shit works. Like none of this shit talks to each other. None of this stuff like integrates in any type of way. Like there was this whole idea of a smart home and that you would come in and the doors would automatically unlock and the air
I
would
mean,
set
hello,
your
the Jetsons.
thing
Where's
and
Rosie?
yeah, like, it's not right? Like, Roomba was supposed to be rosy. I mean,
Right.
and that also makes me think of, like, 10 years ago, Roomba got so much free information or free press of, like, of the, memification of people, like, with their cats on the Roombas,
Oh yeah.
or people putting R2D2 stickers on their or covers. Remember they sold those? They sold these vinyl sets of R2D2 or Star Wars stuff that they would
Uh-huh.
wrap on their Roombas.
That's cool.
Um
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they have those on Amazon, and I also remember people also doing like a battle bots thing where they would like take tape and tape utensils to their Roombas and then have them like try to make them do a robot fight with against other
Right.
Roombas as
Right.
kind of a gag, but like they had so much going for them as a brand.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, it's one of those brands where by name you want to use it as a verb.
Right.
To call your vacuum the same thing. So their branding was strong. So
Yes.
really the what happened, I think, was the experience plateaued while I think we still had maybe expectations.
Yep.
Also, it's like, why, you once you create it, why is the sticker price still at that same price point? Like
No kidding.
once you develop a HubSpot or a Salesforce, you do not have to recreate that interface or that code again. Obviously, maintenance, that's different.
Mhm.
I'm just talking about the basis. Why is it at
Right.
that significant price point?
Right. Well, and also, when they were talking about like their um all these improvements, like all the stuff about like we're gonna make a new we're gonna make a lawnmower or we're gonna add a mopping feature. It's like one of the things that was happening, I guess, was charging ports were melting and their units
Um,
were dying after 16 months. So it's like, oh, you get maybe less than a year and a half after shelling out $1,000 for a fancy vacuum cleaner.
yeah, that's a price point not everyone wants to afford, especially like with I mean, then you're like, well, I guess my regular vacuum is fine, right?
Right. Right. I guess I can push this and do this on my own.
Also, I feel like we should bring up from like a cognitive, user experience is decision fatigue. I think we should talk
Uh-huh.
about that a little bit, you guys.
Yeah.
So, decision fatigue is at purchase time is a very real thing, which could, be a failure to your product as well. And so, from a UX perspective, one thing is like if you're like a product manager or a UXer, maybe even do you think software developers watch our podcast?
I would hope they did.
I hope
They
so
I
too.
would hope they watch and listen.
I know. Anyway, what would you be asking? The decision fatigue of is which one is right for me? Do I choose the alternative or, like, how long should I wait? Is there something right? Because, like I told you, I waited till Black Friday because I knew I would get like some sort
Mhm.
of deal. And so I think cheaper brands reduce the cognitive load and kind of like really like push that. So decision fatigue is a real thing and generally it happens at purchase time where people get overwhelmed and actually do not make a decision or make the wrong,
Yeah,
which is not buying your product.
yeah, and I also wonder, we were talking when we had Christina on, we were both talking about how there was a while there where everybody decided they all needed apps for everything. And like sometimes I think we have to be like, do I really need an app do I really want like I have an app for our garage door to open our garage door.
Yeah.
And I don't use it very often. I mean, but the good news about it is if I fire up that app, all it does is it says open, closed. That is it. But we don't really need an app for a vacuum cleaner, especially one that's supposed to be a robot that's supposed to go. You're supposed to basically be able to say clean the house, and that's it, or go the floors,
Yeah.
right? Like just think of like I, what do you need an app for a cleaner? Like that just doesn't, that's an app for the app versus an app that actually serves a real purpose.
Yeah. I was using my app quite a lot. when I used the map. So when I was using the
Okay.
mapping services, there were times where it helped because especially when you like have animals or like a section of the house you
Sure.
just don't want, like there's just too many things in there, you don't want it to go in. So that was cool because you could select the area, hit, and that was all, map
Yeah.
driven interface. And so that's when we used it. But I think I know what you're talking about where, you know, um, my app nowadays, I don't know why, my Shark app does log me out and almost feel like it forgot my robot. So I
Yeah.
actually have to like recalibrate it. And so the other day I couldn't find my map. So I had to get it to map my house again. I'm not sure why.
That's such a pain. I I I think that well, and I think that it's interesting to think of like you having to map that's where I also like wonder, to your point about the cognitive load, is why why are you would have thought that it would have done a better job of like after you had mapped your house, like learning and knowing about it
Right.
versus and basically maintaining that versus and also not like logging you out each and every time. But there's something to be said for like making it where, maybe it becomes a thing where like you open up your phone and you just go while you're at work and you're just able to send the signal to it to go clean your house versus having to do all the other things, you know. I did
Yeah.
see but I guess there's a new one that now climbs stairs that can go up and down stairs,
I have
which I
not
think is
seen
kinda
that.
wild. It has, like, little
What is
robot
it?
legs or something on it.
The
I don't know what it is. I just saw it has, like, legs that, like, ladder lifted up stairs.
Well, what's Neo going to do if 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 that vacuums, what's the other robot supposed to do? But that's cool. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Mine was
So
always like on the edge of falling off the stairwell, right? It would always like, like let me know, like, hey, it's stuck on the edge. It's about to fall off or something. So that was always like an interesting warning. And of course, the noise of the product from a notification standpoint was also, obnoxious because I'd be at home, I'd be at work and
yeah.
so I'd get like 2, 3 notifications. It was because of my
Oh, really?
robot vacuum.
Oh. I
Yeah.
wonder how so I wonder how iRobot or the Roombas, how those notifications have been. I would love to know, like, if people are watching this or that have for them to leave us what their experience has been like. I wonder what happens if you have a if you've bought one, if you bought, let's say that you had a Black Friday deal, right? Then the company is going bankrupt
Right.
on in December, but you just bought one for Black Friday. Are you returning your iRobot? Are you refunding it? Like, are they gonna support your iRobot? Like, what is going to, or your Roomba? Like, what's going to happen with all these Roombas?
Right. No, you're right. I think that's one thing, I think from the security standpoint of, let's say, a company overseas, purchasing, this kind of American, like this data that's from, Americans. Is this like being compromised in some way?
Well, and the other thing that for us as UXers to think about is how fragile the trust is when we build stuff, and like that, if you have all it takes is like one bad experience, right? Like you with the app, like if you're in an app and you're getting logged out, that's a bad experience. And if you're having to like go in each and every time and be like, don't you know who I am? Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it's happened more than once. That's why I bring it up.
yeah,
Maybe if it was a fluke, sure, but it's definitely happened more than once.
yeah,
And, another thing is like as a, UXers here, and maybe there are like C-suite folks listening to the podcast as well, if you're a UX-led company, which all digital product companies should think this way. User
Mm.
experience in the strategic realm of your company really is, that's your lifeline. UX research,
Yeah.
and just designing for the end user and not necessarily the C-suite, would just like leaps and bounds put you ahead. And that, just because of these little nuances we've been talking about, I think really shows like another factor of a digital product, gone haywire. So, this kind of echoes the whole Roblox conversation we had weeks ago, from like a
Yeah.
governance and putting guardrails around your product and anticipating, lawsuits. I
Mm.
mean, what's this law team like? What's this like legal team at Roblox doing exactly? Right. So thinking about that from any product, you would be saving money putting a user experience team at the forefront of the product life cycle. You would probably
Yeah.
be covering a fourth of your cost instead of paying it in settlements later down the line.
Totally. Well, and the other thing that I think that you're saying too is that um, you also like the speed to market versus like getting your stuff to market and being able to test and make sure that like is your product going to fit the market and making sure that's the case. That's why you need user experience professionals for to give you all of those ideas that they can test out. Um, and you can versus trying to like slow walk it and tweak every single thing and have something that's perfect that's going to take forever and never come out, like the lawn mowing feature, right? I
Right.
mean, there's a delicate balance there, which is that you don't want to. The flip side of it is like you don't want to put something out that doesn't have any safety guardrails or doesn't have any type of thing. But that is part of the whole purpose of testing is like you're de-risking products so that every time that you're going through your testing and having good UXers, having good researchers, having good content writers, having good engineers means all of them are going to give a shit and make sure and will want to say, will want a good product put out. Nobody works and tries to put out garbage most of the times. I mean, we've certainly talked about several products that have not met have not met that rigor, but I don't think that, most I don't think most people want to put out garbage.
I mean, that's obviously not the intent. But in
Right.
this case, it's something that I feel like is significant, when you're talking about just from like if we just talk about from a cost savings, like just
Yeah.
UX, savings ratio at the beginning of the product life cycle. And this is, I lowballed it before, and I think I've had someone say this is like what you're talking about is like really cheap. Um, every dollar you spend on UX, early UX, you're saving anywhere from 10 to $100 later. So
Yeah.
this isn't like about like this is about like product development economics. And so what you're really doing is you're validating your software, your hardware, the enterprise systems. And so from that like if there's let's say a chief financial officer listening, and this is probably like magic here. You're talking about 1x cost to fix problem in discovery or design, a 10x cost to fix the same problem during development, and get this, 100x cost to fix it after you launch a product. So this thing
Mhm.
about fail fast, that is such a development, point of view. Whereas you could really do a lot more at the beginning of the product life cycle than waiting till after launch. It costs 100 times more.
Hmm. Well, and that also that goes back to like I think we talked about this in like the very first episode, but I always love the UX pod guys back in the day did this great illustration where they talked about MVP and they talked about defining an MVP. And too often an MVP is defined not as what so MVP stands for minimal viable product, right? And it's really important that like that we understand what that is. That means that it is like you it still at the end of the day is a product. So the point that they made in this amazing illustration is like if you're going to make a car, it doesn't mean you're going to start with a skateboard because a skateboard is not part of a car. If you're going to
Right.
make a car and it's going to be your MVP, it means that it has to actually be a car. It can't be a skateboard. And they show in the illustration when they're talking about like the iteration piece, they show a car and the car's driving along and it gets rained on. And they're like, oh, I want to put a hood on the top of my car or roof on the top of my car, right? As an example of an iteration, but it is still like this is still a whole product that is put together entirely.
Right. That's good. That's a good point. So I think here maybe unless we have any other points here, we can kind of wrap up with with a UX failure that's happened with Roomba going into bankruptcy. Obviously, you know, where it was highlighted and in its heydays, just obviously had like things where there was like battles of robots, and just this kind of fun experience you were having, and it was practical in a way to what you see today. And you're seeing us really talk about these different types of products like Skylanders video game series going from 3 billion to I don't even know, is it non-existent at this point?
Skylanders got bought for like I believe 100 million and change by Microsoft. I think Microsoft gotten it's been shelved, but it was at one point valued at several billion dollars.
Something like that,
But
huh?
Roomba though was also like was valued at several billion dollars. iRobot was. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but again, this is like your valuation can go super high, and then it just takes a couple of mistakes with and again customer service.
Yeah, with that, we can wrap up here. If you guys have any comments or questions or just stuff that you think we should cover, please email us at questions@uxmurdermystery.com, and we'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, and follow, or become our next victim of bad UX.
UX Murder Mystery is a joint production of Eve, User Experience Design Agency, and CrowleyUX, where systems meet stories. It's hosted by Brian J. Crowley and Eve Eden. Edited by Kelsey Smith. Intro animation and logo design by Brian J. Crowley. The music is by Nicolas Lee. You can follow us at UX Murder Mystery. You can email us at questions@uxmurdermystery.com. UX Murder Mystery is a copyright 2025, Brian J. Crowley and Eve Eden. Thanks for listening.